talking about measures of center, first thing that comes into mind is the mean, the arithmetic or mean. Now, how do you calculate the mean? Well, simply enough, it's the sum of the data values in a data set divided by the number of values in the data set. Now, let's go ahead and give an example here. So let's first say measures of center, and let's talk about the mean. All right, so first thing I want to do is create a data frame. So first thing I'm going to do is say import pandas as PD. I'm going to go ahead and create my data frame, pd.data frame. And let's have two columns. First column, I want to call it data. And let's give it some values here. So first row, going to give it a value of 1. Second row, gonna give it a value of, let's say, 9. Third row, I'm gonna give it a value of 13. All right, let's make another column. Call it weight. Same thing. Gonna give that column some values. Gonna give the first row value of 2 for that column. Second row, gonna give it a value of 3. And last row, third row, give it a value of 1. See here, close our curly brackets, and let's say the columns are going to be called data and weight. Alrighty. Alrighty, let's do a quick check here. Spelling. Alrighty, so we have our data frame. Now let's try to figure out how to find the mean for the data column here of all the data values. So all I have to say is df.data.mean. And as you can see here, that is our mean. Let's try to say over here 110, 14, divide. Let's make these easy numbers. All right, so we have a value of 8. That makes it a little easier. 24 divided by 3, 8. So all of what we did here is 1 plus 9, 10, 10 plus 14, 24 divided by 3 is 8. Fantastic. We were able to use the dataframe.mean function to find the mean of values in a data frame. Now in this next section, let's try to determine the weighted mean. The weighted mean is a measure of center where some values are counted more than once. The weights can be expressed as positive integers or percentages. As you can see here, to determine the weighted mean mathematically, you have to multiply the numbers in your data set by the weights and then add the results up. So again, you multiply the numbers in your data set by the weights and add them up. And then the last part is to divide by the sum of the weights. So in this case, weighted mean equals 1 times 2 plus 9 times 3 plus 14 times 1 divided by the sum of the weights, 2 plus 3 plus 1. In this case, it's 7.17. That's great. So what if we wanted to write a formula and use our pandas function to determine the weighted mean. Because in many cases, you have more than 3 records. You have hundreds or even thousands or millions of records. So let's try to write a weighted mean formula. So weighted mean formula equals, open parentheses, data multiplied by the weight, and of course, summed up, divided by the data frame for the weight column, added together to return the sum of values over the requested axis, in this case for weight, and this case for data multiplied by the weight. So the weighted formula in this case is 7.17, which is identical to the value that we determined earlier. This is great. Now let's try to add one more record. In this case, I'm gonna add another record here with a data value of 19 and a weight of 7. Now I'm going to use my weighted mean formula, and the value is 13.54. That is the weighted mean. And of course, if we wanted to try to calculate it by typing the values, and as you can see here, the value is identical to the weighted mean formula that we've created, which is fantastic. Now let's use a real data set here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to use some data from World Happiness Report 2021. I'm going to click over here. And as you can see here, there is a World Happiness Report, which is a landmark survey of the state of global happiness. So there are these scores and rankings used from the Gallup World Poll. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to download the CSV file from the World Happiness Report. And in the next step, I'm going to import my pandas module as PD. And I'm going to read my CSV file that I just downloaded locally. Do a quick check. Fantastic. I am going to display the first 10 records. And last part, I'm going to print the number of records to determine the number of countries that were included as part of the report. Quick check. Looks good. Excellent. We can see the data now, and right off the bat, we can see Finland, part of Western Europe, and some happiness scores. Based on the data, looks like Finland has a high ranking. I think it's the top ranking actually from the World Poll. As we can see, the columns all following the happiness score estimate the extent to which each of 6 factors, we have economic production, social support, life expectancy, freedom, absence of corruption, and generosity. They all contribute to making life evaluations on the total score reported. Great. So let's look at, oh, we can see here 149 countries. All right. So one would wonder, where does the United States rank? Well, assuming it's in our data set, let's try to find it. Let's see here, country name. Perform a quick check. Ah, perfect. Ranks number, if we start at 0, 19. All right, we found it. Now for fun, let's try to plot this data here. Let's take a look at ladder score versus GDP per capita. All right, paste some code that I just wrote. This should give us the happiness score versus the gross domestic product, which breaks down the country's output per person, dividing the GDP by a country's population. All right, wonderful. It seems like the higher the GDP per capita, the higher the happiness score. For the most part, we have a trend line here. Looks like rich countries, more developed industrial countries tend to have the highest GDP per capita. So the more wealth and prosperous you are, the higher the score, but that's not entirely the case because there are other factors that determine the happiness score here. Going back to this section, let's determine the mean. So now this is the mean for the entire data set as far as all the different columns. The ladder score, that means 5.5. The life expectancy, the mean value, 64, 65 years of age. Excellent. So as you can see here, when you use this function mean along with your data set, you can look at the mean values for the entire data set as far as all the columns. Now, if we want to be a little bit more precise, so for example, if we wanted to look at the mean value for the ladder score, you can just type scores, ladder score, mean, and you can see here this value matches this value right here. If I wanted to determine the mean life expectancy, then I would type the following: 65 years of age, 65 years of age. This is amazing. The next measure that I would like to talk about is the median. What is the median? Median is the middle value in a sorted data set. So let's try to find the median for an array. First thing I'm going to do is import numpy as MP. Next, I'm going to create an array. My array, I'm going to call it arr1 equals mp dot array. I'm going to go ahead and give it some values here. Values are going to be 2, 4, 5, 7, 22, and 44. Last part, I'm going to go ahead and print the median. If you notice here, I use numpy and applied a function called median to the array that I just created. So I'm going to go ahead and run. And as you can see, the value of the median was 6. The length of my array was 6. Also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you have 6 items in an array or a list, the median is the mean of the middle two values of the sorted data set. In this case, the middle two values of the sorted data set are 5 and 7. So the mean of 5 and 7 is 6, which is 5 plus 7 divided by 2. Now, of course, if I add one more item to my array, in this case 8, 8, as you can see here, the median now is 7. Why 7? Well, there's 7 items in my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 is the middle value. How? Well, if you count 3 from the left, 1, 2, 3, count 3 from the right, 1, 2, 3, 7 is the middle value. Now let's go back to the data set from Kaggle for the World Happiness Report and try to determine the median of each column. So just to repeat, I'm going to go ahead and import pandas as PD and load the data set from Kaggle, which we've done before. The next part, I'm going to go ahead and print scores, use the function median, and run. This is amazing. As you can see on the screen, I was able to print the median for each column in my data frame. Now, if I wanted to be a little bit more specific and print the median for healthy life expectancy only, as you can see on the screen, it's 66. That is the median life expectancy. Simply, I would type print scores healthy life expectancy and use my median function. And now type my median function. And as you can see here, the value is 66, which matches the value of 66 when we determine the median for every column in our World Happiness Report data frame. All right, so the mode is the most frequent occurring value in the data set and is another measure of center. Well, first thing is we're going to create an array 482, 25, 10, 2, 1, 10. I'm going to print the array, and this is what my array is going to look like. Now I'm going to use SciPy over here to determine the mode. So st.mode of the array, my mode of the array, 2, 1, 10, count 2, 1, 2. If you look at the array that you've created, the mode is 2. Over here, the mode is 1. Well, there's multiple modes, but at the same time, we're going to return the smallest one. Mode is 10, occurred 2 times, 2 and 1. So over here, 2 for 2, 1 for 1, and twice happened over here for 10. Now, what if we wanted to do this for our World Happiness Report and we wanted to take a look at our regional indicator here? We have Western Europe versus North America versus, I believe, Africa. So all we have to say, scores, regional indicator, and all right. This shows us right away that our mode for regional indicator is Sub-Saharan Africa. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, if I wanted to just to verify that and look at all the regional indicator counts in my data set, I can write the following. First, I'm going to group all my regional indicators, determine their size. And as you can see here, this provides me the count. And sure enough, Sub-Saharan Africa had the most frequent count, whereby it occurs most often in the collection. If I wanted to clean up my output slightly and sort my values, then I can type the following, whereby I use the sort values function. And voila, the element that occurred most frequently was Sub-Saharan Africa, and the element that occurred least often was North America. This is absolutely fantastic. This concludes our section on measures of center.